Welcome to the second episode of A Mental Health Break with Vincent A. Lanci. I'm excited to launch this second episode for you all. I'm Vincent Lanci, speaker and author of the book Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption. When I was 21 years old, I was the victim of a hit-and-run accident while walking home from a friend's birthday. After coming out of a coma and suffering from a traumatic brain injury, or you may know of as a TBI, I soon realized that it was time to put my mental health on a very, very high pedestal. This podcast is all things mental health. Would it benefit you to hear from mental health professionals and influencers? Would it also add value to your life to hear authentic stories from people talking about their mental health, the issues they face, and how they actively combat them? If it is, look no further. This is the perfect place for you. I want to start the day by congratulating you for making your mental health a priority. Ever since my accident and into recovery, that became more and more imperative for me. I hope to do the same for you with this podcast. If you missed last week's episode, be sure to download it after you tune in today. Remember, everyone, my goal is to bring you value-filled episodes that feature a variety of doctors, influencers, and individuals who are open to discussing their mental health issues. On the first episode, I was able to bring you both a doctor and an influencer in Dr. Denise McDermott. On this episode, I'm happy to introduce someone who has been speaking about his experiences associated with mental health for years. He has an incredible story of perseverance. And Mike, thanks for joining the show.
Pleasure to be with you, Vincent. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you again. We actually met because of two different situations that took us both off our feet, but we are both still here. He's a Tampa General Hospital brother of mine. He survived, he persevered, and he made it clear that he will not give up, and I'm proud of him each and every day. Mike, why don't you share your a little bit of your story with some of our listeners? Let them know where you came from and what happened with you.
I'd love to. It's a long one, but I'll get into it as quickly as I can and try to
just give an intro to our listeners. That way we can get into the questions and share a little more.
Sounds good. Anyway, I've had 9 brain surgeries and 30 treatments of radiation due to brain cancer. When I was 23, I was diagnosed with a juvenile pilocytic astrocytoma. It's grade 1 cancer, but it recurred so many times that it actually is cancerous, and I've had 9 surgeries because of it.
Yeah, Mike's a true warrior, and he's been through so much, and he still has it in him to do a lot of good in this world. So,
That's
Mike,
what
thanks.
You gotta do. You gotta be positive. I didn't get through what I got through. I had to stay positive. I mean, I've faced death. I've actually died on the table many times, and I've had out-of-body experiences. But you know what? Positivity.
You do a great job at that. And Mike's also a wonderful father. How old is your son, Cube?
My son, he is 5 years old. He's an amazing little boy.
Yeah. Very blessed, Mike. So, Mike, thanks for that intro. And something I do each week is I share a mental health story of someone who is famous because I want to let you all know that you are not alone. I want you to also understand that even though someone looks healthy from the outside, they may not be on the inside too. I read 2 articles, one from Men's Health and one from Business Insider, on a celebrity who is arguably the biggest superstar on the planet. I love this part of the show because I'm able to learn a lot more new things and perspectives on mental health. When he was a kid, he hit a run of depression. It was so inspiring to hear because such a star, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, as he goes to you, is just like you and me. When he was 15 years old, his mom tried to commit suicide by walking in front of a moving car on I-65 in Nashville, Tennessee. He grabbed her and put her onto the gravel of the shoulder lane of the interstate. He also shared that his mom no longer remembers this incident, but it stuck with him. He says, regardless of who you are and where you are from, it doesn't discriminate, so why should we discriminate depression? And I think the following thing he said will resonate with a lot of you listening in. He said he battled depression for years because of a string of upsetting events. He had the scare with his mom. His dreams of playing pro football kind of ended because of a serious injury, and his at-the-time girlfriend broke up with him. It's a lot to handle, but he reached a point where he didn't want to do anything or go anywhere. He was just crying constantly. He was an only child, kept it all bottled in and said it wasn't good, so now he's just really happy to share his story. I encourage you all listening to do the same because I know for me, it goes a long way when I have the opportunity to share my experiences. I think this next part will resonate with a lot of the male listeners as he talks about the difficulties of a man to share certain things like mental illnesses And he found in the past that depression was tough to talk about because sometimes it's labeled as toxic masculinity for a man. I will end the spotlight story with one more quote from him. It took him a long time to realize it, but it was key to not be afraid to open up. Especially us dudes have a tendency to keep it in. You're not alone, he said. Mike, did you ever hear about any of The Rock's mental issues?
Not since the time that you mentioned. I actually looked into it a little bit further, but it's a
Yeah.
pretty interesting story. It's sad to hear, and I can't believe that he had to face something so dramatic as stopping his mom from killing herself, and then
Yeah.
he denies it, and I don't know.
Yeah, I guess
But
his mother's getting a little older. She doesn't remember it, but that's a big thing to keep inside. He's saying as an only child, he was never able to open up to anybody. He had to bottle it all in. So it's good to hear that because I know he has a lot of fans listening into everything he does. But Mike, let's get into the main event. I'm really excited to hear your responses for this, and I know our listeners will be too. Each week, I go over a series of 6 questions with my guest. My goal is to feature many valuable guests, and here's one, a brain patient victim, and he's going to get into a lot of great depth for you to battle your mental health issues. I will deliver as much value to you all as possible by me staying consistent and finding great patients like Mike, great doctors last week like Dr. Denise McDermott, and I'm excited to keep bringing you guys value. So, Mike, many people would agree that the more common or talked about mental illnesses are mood disorders, anxiety disorders, or schizophrenia disorders. What areas did you personally or do you personally still experience?
I deal with things like anxiety. I deal with obviously slight depression because I mean I got a lot going on. I could die from brain cancer. I could die from aneurysm. I mean anybody could die, but
Yeah.
you can't really know what's going to go on. But um, I don't know. I forgot where I was going with this.
Well, I mean,
Sorry,
let's take a
my
little
son is being a little butt and pounding on my door.
you mentioned a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of depression. What are some ways that you got out of it, where you snapped out of it, you snapped the funk off and got back with your day?
Well, one thing that's really important is exercise. Getting proper exercise is really important for your mental health. I know you need to exercise your body, but exercising actually helps your mental health as well. It
I
helped me
agree.
deal with a lot of anxiety. It's helped me deal with the depression, and I've gotten through that because of one, the very good exercise, two, a good clean diet, and three, I would say, is sleep and mental health days or taking care of
Oh,
yourself.
I'm
I don't
with
know.
you. I'm with you with everything you said, man. I wake up every day. Once I get, my emails done in the beginning parts of my day prepped, I go right to the gym. It really helps with my anxiety, and I try to make sure it's a regular daily thing, even if it's not weights, do a little cardio or something, just because I really think it does help my mental health a great deal. When I don't go to the gym, I definitely notice the difference.
Yeah, me too. It's probably that natural endorphin rush that you get,
Oh yeah, I'm
something
with you
like
with
that.
the sleep too. I'm in bed early, now that I'm getting older, really I'm looking to
You're
party
getting
or do things
how
like
old?
that. 28.
28. Okay, I'm 36, and I go to bed like about 10 o'clock every night.
Oh, I'm well in bed by then, man. I promise that. I get.
But I wake up at like 4 a.m.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Me too. Well, that's a great answer. Thank you, Mike. Let's go to number 2. When did you first decide that you were going to really start speaking about your mental health? What was the moment where you realized, hey, my story's bigger than just what happened to me. I can give back through the use of my story. Because I know you've been doing it for a while now, but please share if you don't mind.
When I first realized that I needed to start speaking about what was going on was actually after I lost my ability to speak. I after brain surgery 6 or 7, I think, I had another traumatic brain or another acquired brain injury from the surgery, and I lost my ability to speak. And I could form the words, type them, do whatever I wanted like that. But if I tried to speak them, it would just come out all jarbled, like blah 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 blah. Yeah. And it was during that time that I realized, hey, I need to bring some attention to this. And people, like, I'm going through a lot. I'm dealing with so many different things like anxiety, a little bit of depression. I, of course, have sleep problems, and um, in addition to that, a little bit ADD.
Yeah.
That's probably why I can't remember what that we're talking about. No, I'm just joking there. But I think that the right after that, when I started gaining my ability to speak, that's when I kind of realized I needed to bring awareness to this.
Yeah, well, you do a great job of it in your story. Like I said, such a perseverance where you still don't give up time and time again, and now you're just a great role model for your son. That's amazing, Mike. Let's look at number 3. We spoke about this a little bit, but what advice can you give to our listeners as a potential early signs that, hey, they might be developing a mental illness, whether it be anxiety, depression, something you can give firsthand experience on? What would some early signs be for them?
I would say that the anxiety was my biggest deal, and especially with the I diagnosed my own brain tumor and my own brain cancer, and
Unbelievable.
doctors told me that I was wrong. It was three different doctors that told me that no, you have a sinus infection. You don't have brain cancer. I'm like, I think I have brain cancer, and they're like, nope. Finally, the next doctor sent me out for a CT, and sure enough, brain tumor, hydrocephalus, all the bad stuff. I had to go for emergency surgery that night, and the rest is history. 9 brain surgeries later, 30 treatments of radiation, and here I am, still kicking
Still
and
a warrior.
doing pretty well. I mean, if you look, I was looking at a Facebook video from about 5 years ago, and it was where the one after I developed a speech problem,
Okay.
and I would look back at it and I'm like, wow, I can't believe how far I've come. I could actually form words, and I'll have to send you the clip so
Yeah,
your
please do.
viewers could listen how bad I was.
I wouldn't call it bad. I'd just call it making progress. But Mike,
Yeah,
so when you mentioned
progress,
that,
but the getting back to the question, the
yeah.
anxiety.
So what are your early
I
marks when you start to feel that it's starting to act up? What are those feelings like? How can you describe those feelings so maybe that they realize maybe they didn't realize they were potentially getting some
well,
anxiety?
I know it's usually happens when I'm in a high pressure type of situation,
Yeah.
and I feel, of course, shortness of breath, tightness in my chest, and it's like start to feel that anxiety, and I know it's time to do deep breathing and
Yeah.
it's time to calm myself down. But people know they'll feel differently, and it's always good to talk to your mental health provider and get help if you can.
Absolutely. So Mike, this is number 4, the next question in our big 6. If you could only pick 3 and just 3, what would be the 3 most important things our listeners can do on a daily basis to improve their overall mental health? You touched on a little of this
Yeah,
before.
I touched on those already. I guess I jumped the gun. Exercise, diet, and taking care of your mental health through breaks, relaxation, and sleeping.
What kind of breaks do you take for your mental health breaks when you need a
Uh,
break your day?
Hold on, you broke up there.
Sammy?
Yeah. Um, what kind of breaks do I take? I basically just take like 15, 20 minutes to take a nap or
Naps?
watch TV or just zone out on my phone or whatever. I mean, one thing that has helped for sure is medicinal cannabis, medical marijuana. It's been a big help for sure. It is one of the things that definitely relieves anxiety.
Great, great. All right, so those are 3 things you're saying: the sleep, the exercise, and the mental health breaks are key.
Hmm.
Great.
Absolutely.
So now number 5. We spoke about some short-term initiatives that our listeners can take daily to improve their mental health. What are 2 longer-term commitments that they can make to create a healthier mindset down the road? Some things that really won't happen overnight.
Well, you're going to have to plan. Planning is very important to everything. I mean, if you fail to plan, you'll plan to fail. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I agree.
But you've got to kind of figure out where you're going with your life. You got to make sure that you're happy. You're in control of your own happiness.
I love
And
that.
if you can't be happy, then you're going to have a lot of issues. I mean, if you go into a career that you hate and spend all this time doing it, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to get my accounting degree and become an accountant, for example, or whatever.
Yeah.
And you hate this. You just hate this. You say, I want to be an artist, or I want to be a musician, or I want to make apps for a living, or, you got to be happy with what you do. And doing that takes time and planning. That's kind of a goal for the future, is to make sure that you are happy.
I love it. Similar with me, I've been using my degrees, finance, MBA, and the last year I've shifted to more full-time giving back through sharing my story. And now with the book release last month, it's time. I think the podcast is a great way to help inspire others through stories like yours, remarkable resiliency, and give some tips to people where mental health is finally getting some attention. Stories like yours can help them.
Oh yeah, and I'm working on a book right now. It should be ready in the next couple months.
Oh yeah, congratulations. Definitely keep posted. Yeah.
Yeah. And aside from that, I'd love to be back on some other time on the podcast. And
For sure. Well, we still have one more question for you, Mike, and it's number 6. What are some ways that you plan on raising awareness for mental health in the near future? What are some initiatives that you're going to take to raise awareness for mental health, let people know what's going on, how important it is, and why it needs more attention?
well, obviously doing podcasts like this, and writing my book is gonna talk. It's gonna delve into a little bit of the mental health, and then as far I'm sorry, repeat that.
Mental health initiatives for the near future. How are you going to raise some awareness? What are you thinking of doing to get out there?
Oh,
And
here's what I have planned. Actually, is a it's a 501c3 that I'm working
I remember
on
you mentioned that a little
to
bit. Yeah.
help people with brain injuries and prevent brain injuries. I feel that there are way too many kids in this world that get brain injuries from riding a bike, and it's
That's
totally
right.
preventable. Totally preventable. Helmets for kids just makes a huge amount of sense. When you could spend $20, $10, $20 on a helmet versus hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical bills, I'd say the
I'm with
helmet.
you 100%. I'm with you. I
It's
mean,
like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So
I like that too. The kids, the cool thing, they don't want to wear the helmet when the cool thing is, in fact, to wear your helmet because it keeps you
absolutely.
alive. Yeah. Well, Mike,
It's like I like helmet hair. It's fine. I think helmet hair is fashionable because it means you're protecting that soft, squishy sponge in the middle of your head.
yeah. Well, Mike, thanks so much for coming on today. I know you'll be able to help a lot of people through your story. It's been a great morning for me. I did my teaching this morning after I exercised. Then I had a chance to catch up with you. Always long mornings, but always such valuable
Oh,
mornings.
and one other thing is, in
Yeah,
case
Mike,
the
please.
viewers had a question about my eyes, I actually suffered from third and fourth cranial nerve palsy from surgery, from
Please
two of my
share with
surgeries,
please share with
and
that, Mike. Yes.
it makes my eyes look two different directions. So I have what's called monocular vision. So for distance, I use my left eye. For up close, I use my right eye. So I could switch back and forth. And
And
it's
you've learned
something
to work.
that's corrected a little bit. I had eye surgery last month, and it kind of brought this one in a little bit, but it's work in progress, and
Hey,
I'm confident that I'll get to 100%.
you're you're a wonderful guy, Mike. I'm very grateful to call you a friend, and your story always encourages me to do even greater things. It's time for the last word, Mike. We just touched on that. But is there one thing that we didn't get to touch on today that you want to share with our listeners? You mentioned maybe your book. You could talk. What is your book going to be on? Is it going to be about your story?
My book, it's going to be talking about my experiences going through 9 brain surgeries, 30 treatments of radiation, having a couple of out-of-body experiences, and refining God, coming to God again, relearning that Jesus is there for me. And I mean, if it wasn't for that, I don't know where I would be. gotta have faith and you gotta have positivity, and that's where it all lies. And that's kind of the theme of my book, is just stay positive, because in the end, you're in control of your happiness, and if you're not positive, you're not going to be happy.
I love it, Mike. Your positivity is definitely contagious, and I really appreciate it. Mike, you definitely inspired some people out there today. What is your social media, or do you have a website where our listeners can maybe follow your book journey and stay involved in what you're up to today?
Yes, you could follow me on Instagram, Mike F. Bell, I believe Mike F. Bell 26.
Mike F. Bell 26 on Instagram.
Let me check. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I never know my own.
It's all right, rather be sure, because people are definitely going to want to keep in touch with you for your book.
Mike F. Bell. MikeFbell.
Great. Thanks for sharing, Mike. And you can follow the show on Instagram at A Mental Health Break and on Twitter at Podcast by Lanci. Of course, my handles on all social media and YouTube are at Vincent A. Lanci. And my website is vincentalanci.com. Be sure to grab a copy of my book, Left for Dead, A Story of Redemption, available now on Amazon. And if you really enjoyed the show, please do rate it 5 stars, as I work really hard to deliver value-filled guests for you each episode. If you missed last week's episode, be sure to download it after you finish tuning in today. I had the opportunity to bring on Dr. Denise McDermott, who had a wonderful story to share with so much experience in the field. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of A Mental Health Break.